Welcome to the first episode of the Hungry Boys podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Z, from the channel World War Z, and I'm joined here with two other people.
I'm Spin Dash from Spin Dash channel. I'm also one of your hosts.
And I am Ellis from the Movie Multiverse channel.
And today we're going to be talking about the Flash Season 3 premiere, Flashpoint. But before we get into that, Spinny, you want to tell us what you did on Friday?
Yeah, I went to New York Comic Con and I saw a lot of stuff. I think I went to my first panel I ever went to was probably the Doctor Who panel, and like they showed a lot of stuff. Like I think I came too early because I saw like another thing, but it was a good panel. And I walked around looking for stuff. I got a Star Labs T-shirt.
Awesome.
And I think that's really it. Yeah.
So you didn't like. So you also said that you saw a bunch of cosplayers and you took pictures with them. And what did you cosplay as?
I cosplayed as Peter Parker from Captain America Civil War because I had the piece of the shirt, bought it just for that and everything else. Like I think one person said, "Hey, you look like Captain Peter Parker from Captain America Civil War." Like spot on, dude. I'm like, thanks. Like there wasn't that much, but I'm planning next year to dress up with something else better than that.
Yeah, I saw the picture of Spinny's cosplay, and it looked like a fat Peter Parker who had a grease, who was drenched in grease.
Shut up! Not even that.
Spinny, you were there for at least 7 hours. How many people noticed your cosplay?
2 people.
Two. I was about to say that. Jesus, dude, I'm telling you should have worn like some glasses or something, because that would have
that wouldn't fix anything.
That would have worked for you, dude. I feel like that would have worked pretty good. But so glad that you went to New York Comic Con. I'm a little bit jealous, but I had school. I'm in university, so can't really go there.
Yeah.
But good for you, dude. Glad you had a good time.
Thanks.
So yeah, before we get into the episode, I guess we should talk about our thoughts on the first 2 seasons of The Flash. So for me, I really enjoyed season 1 of Flash. I really liked the mystery they had with the Reverse Flash and Eobard Thawne, and the way they really built up to that. And season 2 was a little bit weaker in my opinion. I thought Zoom was pretty cool at first, but later on it just turned out to be a retread of season 1, and that really turned me off because, well, I thought they were going to do something completely different, but eventually just everything became a little bit more predictable, whereas in season 1 it was like I wasn't even expecting them to introduce Eobard Thawne. I thought they were going to make Harrison Wells Reverse Flash, and I guess the surprises in season 2 weren't as well thought out, I guess. But what did you guys think of the first 2 seasons?
For me, I loved season 1. I watched it with my family. It was like a fun show that we used to sit in and watch every Tuesday night. We saw it a little far beyond you guys because in America you got it about 2 months earlier than us.
Right.
But when we got to season 2, I almost started skipping episodes because I realized that it was literally season 1 just sugar-coated, meaning they've added new worlds, and most of the characters were exactly the same in season 1, except they had different names. Like Zoom had basically the Reverse Flash story and things like that. So,
but I felt like his character. Sorry, I was just gonna say that his character was just like, it wasn't like anything like different, because eventually he. Oh yeah, by the way, there's gonna be spoilers in this. I should have mentioned that in the beginning, but anyways, he eventually like kills Barry's father, and he has a traumatic past. Barry has a traumatic past. He was kind of like an evil Barry, but in that sense, I feel like if they had done like Hunter Zolomon from the comics, it would have been a lot cooler.
Wait, didn't they say his name was Hunter Zolomon?
Right, but he didn't. He was basically like an evil version of Barry from like Earth 2, because Earth 2 didn't have a Flash, and Zoom was like pretending to be Jay Garrick for like the longest time.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, the whole backstory they had for him was really weird. Because like the older version of his his dad was like abusive and hadn't killed his mom, and then I don't know why he decided to wear that hat though for Jay Garrick, which was so weird.
Yeah, they
he killed his mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really weird. And then they just for some reason they decided to connect Hunter to like they did a lot of like not too many, but like they had a couple Justice League like references like Aquaman and Batman and a lot of things here and there in Earth 2. But turns out the Hunter was, well, Zoom, and the real Jay Garrick was from Earth 3, and essentially Henry Allen from Earth 3. Now we have to move on to Flashpoint, and I'm going to let you guys talk because I want to hear what you guys have to say, and then I'll talk about it in a sec.
Okay, I'll let Spinny go on first about the whole episode, but I just want to say that within the first 20 seconds, they already ruined like the whole continuity of the show, because we had this whole build-up, I think it was season 1 and season 2, where if Barry ran without his suit, his clothes would burn off, and within the first 20 seconds of season 3, he starts running with normal clothes and nothing happens to them.
Oh,
so I just wanted to...
fuck, I never even thought of that, dude.
It was the first thing I noticed. It completely like destroyed continuity, like straight away.
What the fuck? Yeah, okay, the thing about The Flash that I just want to say real quick is that at first they seemed to like be pretty like on top of everything when it came to attention to detail, but ever since I feel like season 2, I think maybe even the end of season 1, they stopped like giving a shit, and they keep coming up with like they don't really explain a lot of the logic, and I see a lot of inconsistencies. But yeah, Spinny, what did you think of Flashpoint?
So I really was thinking they were gonna show the like new season 3 intro, like, you know, my name is Barry Allen. Well, like they start off by like not even telling us what happened. Like they show 3 months later or something like around that, because I was a little confused. Like, where do we even start with this? Because you see him in a new thing. They didn't really explain how what happened, where this new Flash came from. I mean, they did during the end that he like became the same kind of story as Barry Allen. But like they never really explained the whole story, and it just cuts like 3 months later. I mean, I was really confused in the beginning. And yeah, like Ellis said, the continuity they've been having for these like first 2 seasons was completely destroyed in the first 20 seconds, where his clothes didn't even burn off, and he still had his powers when I thought this was supposed to be Flashpoint, and he wasn't supposed to have his powers. Like the whole thing about him forgetting about who he was or his powers or something like that was a little creative idea. Every time he uses his speed, he like starts losing his memory about stuff that he had from other worlds, which that's pretty cool. I'll give them that. That was a good idea. But it started to get a little bit weird with a lot of stuff. They're trying to confuse me with what happened to Joe, because they never really explained what Joe was doing in that whole universe. He was just sleeping. He didn't like become a really good father to them. He was like wasn't really anywhere.
Yeah, he was different for the sake of being different. There was no justification on why he was a lazy cop, and it just felt really forced. Like this whole event just felt really, really forced.
I'll say that I liked Iris and probably Wally in this episode when he is the Flash, but he doesn't really listen to people to when to stop, and and he gets stabbed.
Barry is the same way as well, because he fucking caused Flashpoint. So
yeah, that's true. I did like the rival though, but I was a little weird that they showed his face, but I get why. Because I don't think he's ever going to appear again, because during the end of the episode, he goes back in time, and we don't see him.
No, he will appear again. I'll get into that a little bit later, but no, he is confirmed for later episodes.
Because I feel like they completely finished Flashpoint in one episode, and they just changed everything. Like they didn't even make a really good story with it. Like there's no war, and I did read an article saying that Cisco was supposed to be something like that, like Batman, like Batman's father. I read an article like that on Facebook, and
yeah, like that article was bullshit.
Complete crap, because someone asked him at a con or something. I think it was an interview,
really?
And he had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, Ellis, what did you think of Flashpoint?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty darn bad. The rival was tacky, and I know that you've seen set photos of the Flash before, and then when you get to the show, the people you see at the set photos look completely different, and CGI has cleared them up, but the rival just still looked tacky and horrible in the actual episode. They completely wasted Flashpoint.
Right.
And yeah, they completely wasted Flashpoint, and the whole reason Barry calls this was to save his parents, yet they're probably the smallest roles in the episode. Like, I completely hated that. I thought they'd have much... Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say that. Well, Barry's mom barely appears in the Flashpoint like movie and the comic, but their role in the TV show, like the episode, like it's like he doesn't interact with them on an important level, right? Like they're just there, and you get feels like, oh, his parents are back. That's it. His parents are just back. They never have like a good like talk with him. There's the part towards the end where he decides, I'm gonna change the timeline back, and he like alludes that something's gonna happen, and they get worried. But I don't understand why he didn't straight up say this. I created this, and you guys are supposed to be dead, and you know that was a little bit of a waste. But yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was intentional, but the whole bringing the team together quickly was completely rushed, and I don't even think they needed to do it in the episode, honestly.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, just complete waste of, and the Flash as a whole now is just become stock for meme pages. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, the whole wasted the messed up the timeline memes. It's just become a whole joke, and I think this episode is going to fuel it for a while.
Yeah, what I felt about Flashpoint when they first announced it, I was very turned off. Okay, because I really, ever since season 1 started, I really wanted them to do Flashpoint, but wait until they make Barry more experienced. So that way there's more of an impact when he screws up the timeline. Because these past 2 seasons, he's messed with the timeline, what, like 5, 6 times? And this just felt like another day for the Flash. The Flashpoint universe didn't feel any different than the main universe, aside from a few things here and there. Other than that, like Central City was basically the same, and these certain characters were the same. That's another problem for why they made it 1 episode long, because in Flashpoint everything is different except for Barry's mom being alive, and his dad is dead in the comic because I think he just dies of natural causes. He doesn't get sent to prison. But this, like you guys have been saying, and like I said before in the chat, this was a complete waste of a great storyline. In my opinion, it's a great storyline. But the thing about this is that the only real consequence during the Flashpoint event, if you can even call it an event, was that Barry was going to lose his memory. He still has his powers. He still thinks his life is going great. And other than that, there's not really much going for it. Whereas in the comic, Barry causes World War III. He causes the end of the world, and he doesn't know that he's the cause of it. That's another thing, right? Barry knows what he's doing is wrong, but he goes and does it anyways, and he essentially becomes the villain. Reverse Flash, first of all, Reverse Flash was the best part of this episode. I fucking love Reverse Flash on this show. Even though the show went a little bit downhill in season 2, in my opinion, the Reverse Flash episode was just solid. The Reverse Flash in this, I understand why he was there, but another problem is that the Reverse Flash is the big twist of Flashpoint. He's supposed to be there being like, I manipulated you to cause this, universe to be created, and because of that, Reverse Flash, he is not tied down, he's not tethered down to the Flashpoint universe, right? So that's why, like, he has no problem in seeing the universe burn, whereas in this, Reverse Flash, he's like, if this timeline, like, sets, then somehow he'll set, but it doesn't make sense because he's not losing his memory. So I don't know, a lot of the logic in this episode, like I've said before that Flash has been really inconsistent. Well, this episode showcases that a lot.
Yeah. And one of the things I didn't really understand in the episode was Flash was so worried about losing past memories. I don't understand what would be the consequence. He went through this whole thing to create new memories, and it's not like he'd forget he's the Flash, because everyone in this universe has now seen him as the Flash. So even if he forgot, he'd be reminded instantly.
Exactly.
Like, wouldn't, like, if, for example, say, like, in the first episode, wouldn't something fell on the floor and he had that little like everything was slowing down and trying to pick it up again. He still has his powers, but it'll be a restart of season 1 if they did do that. Like he forgets his whole memories about all that stuff, and he's just like meets Iris, and then everything goes back in a cycle to where season 1 started, and he'll gain his powers back and do all this weird stuff that he did in the first season. Like that's what would happen if he lost his memory. But the one question I did have after he changed the timeline again with the Reverse Flash is what happened to Iris. It's like they confused me on there. Like I think my friend told me that I think Barry started the New 52 then, right? The Flashpoint's over. I think it is, right?
I wouldn't call it the New 52, but he did change some things because I read an article where they confirmed that Laurel Lance is coming back to Arrow because of Flashpoint.
No.
I wouldn't call it, like I said, I wouldn't call it the New 52, but I get where you're coming from with that, where like there's some differences now. But my thing is this, right? How does Barry have his powers? Because if he went back in time, saved his mom, okay, no, not even that. Barry saving his mom shouldn't even cause Flashpoint in the CW universe. Here's why. In the original timeline, there's an original timeline before Eobard Thawne killed Barry's mom, where Barry Allen still becomes the Flash in, I think, the year 2020, and he goes through the same shit. The original Harrison Wells is his, like, mentor, and they create, like, the whole, like, team and everything. They're all together, right? And the newspaper where you see the Flash vanishes from Central City, that is from the original timeline. So Flashpoint shouldn't even be happening. The original timeline should be happening. You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this really doesn't make sense. So not only does Barry not having his powers like happen, but this whole like timeline, like by the show's logic, should not even be occurring.
When at the end of season 2, when Flash went back again to save his mum, he looks at himself through the door from season 1, and he fades away. So I think maybe that whole timeline's changed.
No, but that doesn't even make sense because that's Flash from the future.
Yeah,
So
that's not the original
paradox.
No, that's not even the. It's not the fact that it's not the original. That's the Flash from the past. He sees himself, the future Flash, like the mid-future Flash from season 2, save his mom, but the past shouldn't be changed, because, or maybe it should.
Yeah.
Maybe it should because he saved his mom. But then by that logic, then season 2 Flash should also disappear, because then there's a scene where he takes Reverse Flash, that's the Reverse Flash of the future, and he takes him through the Speed Force. But then the Speed Force should catch him.
Shouldn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, he shouldn't exist anymore. They really lack the attention to detail. Like what the hell?
They confused a lot of people, and it's hard to talk about the timelines because you get mixed up because a lot of stuff they never really explained. And the one question I have also about it is that this isn't even an actual Flash. Like, I mean, but this whole first, like, season 1, they even explained that Zoom came back in time and turned to Harrison Wells and did the whole thing. So, like, the original Flash, like, the actual real Flash, who, like you said, is the one disappearing.
You mean Zoom as in Eobard Thawne?
Eobard Thawne, yeah.
Yeah.
We never saw. This is like a different version of the Flash, a different timeline. This other one is not like this. The first one we have never seen before. And I don't know if we're ever going to see him at all because it's focusing on this new version, and like, so if anything, that's where the Flashpoint should be happening, like you're saying. And this version, I don't know what they're trying to do.
Right. One of our good friends, Avention, he also brought up a good point where Reverse Flash, he takes the Flash, and at the end of the episode, they go back to the point where before Barry was about to cause Flashpoint, and essentially he stopped Flash and he killed Barry's mom again. But then Reverse Flash takes Barry back to the present, and then he's like, everything is set for me. Barry, you kind of fucked up, so now you have to deal with the consequences of Flashpoint. But he brought up a good point where he said that, you guys remember the episode where they actually like go more in depth into Thawne's backstory?
Not entirely, no.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. How like Ebor Thawne comes in, and then like the actual real like Harrison Wells is.
Okay, yeah. So that also.
Oh no, I remember that.
That's another inconsistency where Thawne should have lost his powers after killing Barry's mom, because that's the same Thawne who killed his mom, and he also says like, I'm from way in the future where you're not an idiot.
Yeah.
And again, the writers didn't pay attention to what happened before, and essentially it's just a bunch of inconsistencies. Like, it's really hard for me to take the show like, as serious as they present it.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't even think they take it semi-seriously, but I didn't find anything that they forced to be emotional in this episode emotional at all.
Yeah.
I rarely find the Flash sad.
Yeah, first season, I felt those feels. Second season, I stopped giving a shit. I mean, now, this episode, I've got to say, this isn't, like, the worst thing I've ever seen, but, as it goes with, like, comparing it to, like, the other Flash episodes, I honestly think that this is the absolute worst episode of the entire series.
Yeah. I feel like the acting's a little stall in this episode, to be honest, with especially Joe. Like, there was no emotion when he saw his son get stabbed. Like, he was like, when he first like, oh my gosh, look, it's Wally. Like, Barry's saying it's Wally over there. He's hurt. He's like, is it what? Well, Wally. He's like, he's not. You actually don't even see any emotion through him. Oh. He's not surprised. He's not upset. Like, I think Joe was a little stall in that part. And I was like, I thought Iris did pretty good this episode. And I thought Barry was good, like he usually is. But I mean, a lot of stuff was weird in this episode for me.
Another thing I want to mention is, like, why would Wally be with Joe? Like, why would Wally be with Iris? Because didn't Joe's, like, ex-wife, like, move away from Central City? They never really, like... That's the thing about this Flashpoint. It doesn't, like, change that much up, is the thing. Because... And you guys are wondering, and the people listening are probably wondering, well, yeah, they did, Wally's Kid Flash, we have the rival, we have this, we have that, but that's here's the thing, right? We're most likely going to be getting Kid Flash in future episodes. He got hit by the particle accelerator, the second one anyways, when they tried to get Flash's powers back, and the rival was teased at the end of the episode. Where Dr. Alchemy was like, wake the fuck up, we have work to do or something. So it's obvious that we're going to get these, like, some things that happen in Flashpoint to happen in the main timeline. So it's like, what the fuck was the point of Flashpoint then?
Oh, I want to explain something, though, about that whole, what's it called? You saying, like, why is Wally with Joe? Is that's the same thing that happened in the other universes? Like, Joe, what's her name? Iris is with Joe, while Wally's with his mom. So I think that's the other way around in this universe, probably, for what they changed. Maybe Iris is with her mom, and that's how, like, they changed roles, sort of.
I don't think they changed roles, because in the main timeline, their mom is dead.
Is it still, really?
Yeah, remember?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
There's another thing that really made me a little bit irritable was when, first of all, Barry kidnaps Caitlin in the Flashpoint timeline, and at first everybody's like, yo, why did you kidnap this girl? He's like, I didn't kidnap her. Oh, wait, yeah, I did. And it was like, at first it was a funny gag, but it's like, no, Barry, why are you being such an asshole? Like, what the fuck, dude? And apparently in this universe, she doesn't work at Star Labs. Well, Star Labs is Cisco Ramon's building now, but she is an eye doctor, and somehow she's able to reprogram a computer to search for like facial recognition.
That was weird.
That was
That was
that was so
incredibly
forced.
weird.
That was so goddamn forced. It just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Wait, but how did she know to do all that stuff with Wally after he got stabbed? If she's an eye
That's another
doctor, how did
thing.
she know that other stuff too?
That's another thing.
I just want to add that the whole Ira feeling that Flash was meant for her thing was complete bullshit, because there's like,
Yeah.
if you're looking at it from a realistic level, he changed time. She wouldn't get that feeling anymore. Time had changed. Time had changed. Her emotions don't change, like, stay with that. This show wants to be realistic half the time, and then it wants to be like, I felt it with the power of love, and like, what is this? What is the motive of this show anymore?
Right, right. And another thing is, I'm surprised the Time Wraiths didn't come after Barry at all. Hello?
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
because honestly, that would be a pretty cool conflict if they made Flashpoint like for a season long or something. I would have like the Time Wraiths, like I would have one of the subplots be like the Time Wraiths are trying to hunt down the Time Wraiths, and the Black Flash are trying to hunt down Barry because he really fucked with the timeline.
yeah.
And that would be really interesting. I thought the Rival was pretty decent. Like he wasn't like the greatest character of the episode. I thought Reverse Flash was the greatest. But Rival was pretty decent character. I think Alice, you were talking about his costume. I thought his costume was fine. Just some of the lining was a little bit weird because I thought it would like be glowing or something, like how it would in the comics, like how these suits would in the comics anyways. But But the only weird part about his costume that kind of bugged me was like the nose part, because at first it looks like it sticks out, kind of like how Batman or Daredevil's nose like sticks out, but it's just like flat, and it just looked really weird from a design standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with the torso or the legs or anything like that. It's just
Right.
the mask. It looks kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what. Sorry.
No,
that's
go
what.
ahead.
That's what I wanted to mention about Rival. I did like his costume. I also liked how they didn't blur out his face. You could see the mask. It's like out there. You could see his face under it. I liked that. I liked how they did that. But the weird thing is though that they didn't do that for Wally. Wally, you could see the blur on his face when he's talking.
Well, I didn't give a shit because they were gonna reveal that he was Wally anyways.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it was obvious anyways too. I also liked how I liked his costume too. But I felt like this new version. Well, we saw Reverse Flash last season and the season before, but I felt like the way he acted in this episode was more comic accurate than the other episodes he was in. Like it felt like the same one we saw in the Flashpoint movie and the Flashpoint comics. The way he was acting a little bit snarky, sarcastic, and then he was being smart but also a jerk. And I actually liked the way he acted. And I did actually. My favorite part was probably the Reverse Flash too.
Yeah, I know Flash has got a ton of humor, and I know Alice, you said that the timeline jokes have gotten really stale, but I really like the curly fries joke. I thought that was a really funny gag, in my opinion. But I think Spinny, the way you feel about Reverse Flash and Thawne is because Thawne and Harrison Wells, any version of him, have been the best developed characters on the show.
Yeah, definitely. They have all these like different, different storylines or different backstories, and they've been set up most throughout the whole series, which makes us even like them more. Especially with Barry. Barry has a good developed storyline, a good developed backstory too, to where now we can relate with him. And those three characters are the mostly developed actually.
Well, the problem with Barry is that they've done a lot of backtracking. Like this whole Flashpoint event, huge backtrack from what Barry's growth as a character. Because the thing about Flashpoint is that from the beginning, you don't know who changed the timeline. You don't know what occurred until the very end, where Thawne, he's like, "You fucked up the timeline, Barry," and then we get to see why and how it happened. But in this, we know from the beginning, Barry messed it up. He knows that what he did was wrong, but he was fine with it because he's a little pussy.
Yeah.
But is that all we have to say about Flashpoint? Cause
I have one more thing to say.
Alright.
Flash is getting a little bit stale now. I mean, it's
Agreed.
very obvious that it's getting
True.
stale as a show. Arrow, they've ruined. They can't go back on it now.
Well,
They've
I saw the Arrow season 5 premiere, and it
Yeah.
wasn't good by
It's
any
not-
means, but I thought
yeah.
it was really entertaining. I enjoyed it a lot more. I genuinely enjoyed it a lot more than the Flash season 3 premiere, and this is coming from a guy who's making a complete analysis on why Arrow is an extremely problematic show.
I mean, what these shows need really is endings, because The Flash is already getting boring and it's on its third season. And what these shows need, and I know DC aren't going to do it, or CW or whoever's like completely overriding these shows right now. They're not going to do endings because they just want these shows to go on forever to make loads and loads of cash. They just want to cash in on this shit.
Mm-hmm.
What they really need to do is actually give these shows proper endings, because I enjoy shows when they have endings, and it's stuff like Stranger Things. Stranger Things, they've already got I think it's like a 40-page document of how the show's going to end and like how they're going to explain the whole show, and I like that they've got the integrity to end the show. Have a completely they have a nice, I don't know, couple of seasons and then ending it off. Like most great shows have good endings, and it's shows like this that are going to get old.
Well, that's a little bit unfair to compare Flash to Stranger Things, like in terms of structure, because, well,
Yeah.
I believe, I could be wrong about this, but Stranger Things was originally just going to be a miniseries, but it took off, whereas Flash is like traditional TV. The way it's planned out and everything. So I understand where you're coming from. I feel like Arrow should at least be ending this season or the following season, but Flash, I feel like there's a lot of things they could have done. Just that Flashpoint was not the right move they could have done. Instead, I feel this felt more like a different Earth. And if it was like a different Earth instead of like, or maybe like a Earth that Barry created, like he used the Speed Force to like create this new Earth. Like he didn't even go back in time, right? And he was just hiding from like the main timeline. I'd be okay with that. There'd be some problems in that, but I think it would be a better justification for this, because this does not feel like in the same spirit of Flashpoint. I'm not saying that it has to be like the comics, because like I enjoyed Captain America Civil War because it was like it had a lot of like beats from the original Civil War comic, but there's no way in hell that they'd be able to fit all those characters into one 2.5-hour movie, right? And I thought Flashpoint was going to be the same way, but it appears they just didn't pull it off right. And I think the thing about Flashpoint, that the way that they market it is just a lot more like clickbait. And now the way they're trying to and even I read somewhere that the ratings for the episode were pretty down. So I feel like
the ratings were low.
Yeah, and the way that they were trying to market it now is that, oh, look at all these consequences to Flashpoint,
Well, there are really no consequences. Iris isn't dead.
But apparently, Killer Frost Caitlyn is gonna become Killer Frost now.
That was always gonna happen.
Yeah. One question I have for all of you guys is, by the way the Flash is going right now, do you think it's gonna end up like Arrow?
I am actually a little bit worried for that.
Yeah, I think it will.
I'm not gonna say it will. I feel like they have a lot of time to keep the momentum going. I thought that, like I said, last season wasn't very good, but it wasn't terrible. But they really need to put in a lot more work and detailing into the show. Again, that might have to do with the formatting, because the 23 episode season is not like the right way to go, in my opinion, because there were so many useless filler episodes last season. I think more than half the episodes from last season were useless filler.
Yeah, I mean, 13 episodes a season would be my pick. 10 to 13.
I'd say 13 to 16, maybe even 18, to tell
Yeah.
a decent story.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we have to say about Flashpoint. One thing that I wanted to add really quickly was how I would actually do Flashpoint on the CW. So essentially what I would do is, well, first of all, I wouldn't really have it be an entire season long, but the first 9 episodes, you guys know how the first 9 episodes, there's first 9 episodes and then there's a break and then they have the rest of the episodes, right?
Yeah. They have like the yeah. I know
They
what
had
you
too many breaks last year.
Yeah, that was terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe it was to tweak the special effects. I have no idea. But anyways, I would have it be like the first 9 episodes of Flash. It would be like Barry, like he's in it more experienced, like a Barry Allen, or he's a more experienced Flash, and he would essentially just be messing up. You know, he'd be coming late to his job. He'd be like not saving as many people as he can, even at his top speed. So essentially, just beat down Flash in the first 9 episodes, and then when it comes down to like the 9th episode, the mid-season finale, it would pretty much play out like the beginning of Flashpoint, the movie, where it's like Flash is stopping the Rogues, and essentially like he gets captured by like Reverse Flash, and then the Justice League come in. Except instead of that, it would be like Supergirl and Arrow and the Legends of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So then,
Mhm.
like at the end of the episode, like Reverse Flash like taunts Barry into like saving his mom, but like instead of showing you that he saves his mom, it would just flash to like the next day, and it turns out that Barry's mom is still alive, and it would end on a cliffhanger. Well, guess what? Not just Flash would be like, Flash wouldn't just be the only show that's affected by this, but the rest of the 14 episodes for Supergirl, Legends, and Arrow would also be affected by this. So essentially, you would have this great like Flashpoint like universe that would be spanned across all 4 of these shows and basically give the viewers like an enriching experience on like and then at the end, like the twist when they see that Reverse Flash tells Barry that, oh hey, you messed up the timeline, this is your doing. I think that would be a very powerful moment for like the viewers, and they could really fit in a lot of these characters to replace like the characters in Flashpoint, like Robert Queen be Green Arrow instead of Thomas Wayne's Batman, and like the Atom replace Cyborg, and maybe Rip Hunter could be a part of Flash's team and like give him like a good ass like beating or something for fucking up the timeline. So I just think it would be a really cool idea this way rather than just
Yeah.
doing a one-off terrible marketing ploy that they did for the show.
Definitely a huge waste.
So yeah, thank you all for watching the very first episode of the Hungry Boys podcast. If you have any criticisms or want to leave a comment or a question down below, feel free. And yeah, hope you guys have a good day.